I'm Reverend Jeff Snyder. I'm the pastor of First-Calvary Baptist Church in beautiful North Andover, Massachusetts. And I wanted to come and talk to you a little bit, spend a little time together in this second week of Advent, a week where we're supposed to focus on peace. And I thought it might be nice to focus on peace around Christmas time, a little less stress for Christmas, you might say. I want you to think back. Let's think back together. And remember the first time that you panicked over everything that had to get done for Christmas. I want you to think back to the expectations that are put on over what this celebration should be, the expectations we put upon ourselves and that society puts on us for this particular holiday. I want us to remember how often we had glittering expectations and the reality just of the season just didn't match up to those expectations. I can remember a number of times sympathizing with Charlie Brown at Christmas during the Christmas special in my busiest years, where Charlie Brown complains to Linus, "I think there must be something wrong with me, Linus. Christmas is coming, but I'm not happy. I don't feel the way I'm supposed to feel." To be honest, sometimes when we're really in the depths of it, trying to find just the right thing, to put together the right meals, to get the right people together, get all the schedules to link up, we just think, I just wish this was over with. I wish we could get beyond it. Whereas this should be one of the more wonderful times of year. Paul gives us a way out of those frantic feelings, a way to avoid comparing our actual lives with some Hallmark TV special or a Norman Rockwell painting and just being disappointed when we don't match up. Let's take a look at what he said to the Philippians in chapter 4, verses 4 through 9 and 13. He says to them, "Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say, rejoice. Let your gentleness be known to everyone. The Lord is near. Do not worry about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Finally, beloved, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, and if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. Keep on doing the things that you have learned and received and heard and seen in me. And the God of peace will be with you. I can do all things through him who strengthens me." Paul starts it all with rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say rejoice. Now, how in the world do you rejoice always? Life is often very difficult. There's a lot of setbacks. There's a lot of people suffering this time of year. So how do you rejoice? Well, we start with a little exercise. Let's open our eyes and our ears and be alert and watch what is happening around us. And I really want us to focus on noticing what God has done for us today, this very day, this hour. We need to be mindful of the things that God is doing. And in that way, we build a better relationship with God. And we discover many reasons to be joyful each and every day. It helps us to get through the hard times, the anxiety about the season, the disappointment like Charlie Brown's when things just don't seem to be turning out the way we think they ought to. And as we do that, our relationship with God grows. And it's a relationship built on trust. We understand that God is faithful to us, even when life is really hard. I really like to what an old friend would tell me when I asked, how are you doing today? How are you feeling? And he would say, I'm upright and taking nourishment. And it was a way for him to recognize with gratitude that his old friend God was there for him in the day. He'd blessed him. He was able to get out of bed. He was able to have a good meal. And so that was right with the world. That was something that God had done for him. A joyful, grateful response became just a regular part of his life. Now, back in the COVID isolation of 2020, I started bird watching. And at the time, I just couldn't recognize more than a few of the very most common birds. And I made this assumption that there were only a few in our area. That turned out to be embarrassingly wrong. And now in 2022, I'm always on the lookout for what birds might be around. You can make age jokes if you really like to, but I actually enjoy bird watching now. And I can identify a surprisingly large number of them. So I'm forever on the lookout for who's new in the neighborhood, who's new on my walks. And it gives me a sense of joy. And it's one way in which you can see how you can do this always. You can rejoice always because it's part of the habit of your life. It becomes part of your routine. It's ingrained within you. And so you can do this each and every day. It'll become a habit, which is a terrific thing. And it gives us a sense of joy when we recognize we can be grateful for God, that God is blessing us each and every day. And what do we do with all that joy that we are collecting, that's building up inside it? Well, you can't leave it bottled up, for heaven's sakes. No, you don't hoard it because there's no limit to the supply. You gotta let it out. As W. Clement Stone said, if you're really thankful, what do? You share. We go out to a restaurant that serves some ridiculously large desserts. You know, the cookie sundae sort of massive thing. One person couldn't eat them. And so when we went out with my wife's theater group, for instance, we would order one of these things and just put it in the center of the table. Somebody would order it and said, just everybody eat that. I can't possibly eat that by myself, so everybody gets some of it. And everybody at the table would get as much as they wanted, and then some usually, and it was so much sweeter. Sharing that joy with everyone. It just made the meal better because it was something we were doing together. Paul adds this about living together in community. He says, let your gentleness be known to everyone. It reminds us that we have a role to play in our community. We're not just isolated in our houses. We're not just isolated with the media here. We actually do get to get out and interact with the people around us, supporting each other, listening to each other, really listening to learn, not listening to respond in an argumentative fashion, but no, listening to each other, making nice comments, being gentle with each other. I saw a great suggestion on Facebook today. Someone was saying, when I'm in the grocery store and I see that the person who's checking me out is having a stressed out kind of day, is not happy, I'll look at the candy selection that's almost always right there and say, I'd like to get something, but I don't know what to get. What's your favorite candy bar? And whatever the person running the checkout, whatever the cashier said, this individual would buy one of those. And when the checkout was done, she would give the cashier that and tell her what a wonderful job she was doing to help lower her stress, to help being a gentle person living in community with others. And I thought that's a wonderful example of just what Paul is saying here. In Greek, the term for gentleness means tolerance. It's not always needing to be right. It's not demanding our own way in everything, but sharing. recognizing that we have a choice each and every day to be a blessing or a curse to the people that we meet. What are we going to do each day? We get to decide. I don't know about you, but I'd sure prefer to be a blessing than a curse. Instead of giving someone a piece of our minds, let's give them a piece of our hearts. Make their day just a little bit better. We need to be humble toward each other, not all puffed up, not insisting on our self-importance, not demanding to be recognized, but offering to help instead. We won't always agree on everything. I've got some dear friends who I've known for many years, and there are several areas that we just don't agree on, and that's fine. We get along really well together because we know we can make life better for each other. We don't have to agree on everything. All of this is really helpful to us, especially in this stressful season, to not be fearful with one another and with the outside world, so that we won't get cranky and anxious about what's going to happen. We realize we're not alone in the world. We have friends, both heavenly friends and earthly friends, who walk beside us. We really do. Paul adds the power of prayer to all of this. He says, don't worry about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. Pray instead of fretting for others. Apologies. I'm recovering from a case of bronchitis, so I'm going to cough every now and then. Hopefully you'll be able to bear with me, and that's a little kindness that you can extend to me today. So pray instead of fret. Use the prayers that you make to chase your blues away, your worries, your anxieties, all the stuff that tries to keep us up at 2 a.m, and that later in the light of the new dawning day seems so much less important than it did in the wee hours of the night. I'm not saying that worries aren't real. Of course they are. But I'm saying that if we place them with God, if we bring God into the mix of dealing with them, it helps us. It keeps us from being overwhelmed by our worries. That way we won't be miserable. We won't have our joy and our gratitude stolen from us. So use prayer like that light of day, that cleansing light of day that chases the fears of the night away. When we do all of this, Paul says, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. God's peace will guard our hearts and our minds, even during these incredibly busy days of the Christmas season. Peace is a gift from God, and the best gifts are the gifts that are shared. Share God's peace with everyone else. In what we say and what we do, we can bless them as God has blessed us. We pass those blessings along. One more wonderful piece of advice from Paul. Finally, beloved, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence and if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. How we think, what we choose to dwell on, impacts how we feel, how we treat others, how much joy we experience. What we think is truly very important. We don't want to let our minds wander into anger, dwelling on old hurts, real or imagined, something that happened yesterday, or for heaven's sakes, not something that happened 30 years ago, and allow ourselves to get all riled up again about something that is way in the past, something that we can't have any effect on now. We don't want to dwell on gossip and rumors, which are rarely true or useful. We don't want to pay too much attention to cranky commentators who are paid to be cranky and are often spreading gossip and rumors, which we know are rarely true or useful. Instead, we can fill our minds with thoughts that are true and honorable and just and pure, that are pleasing to God, that are commendable thoughts. That will elevate the way we think and what we do. Then we can find peace together for this holiday season. Whether our experience meets the old Hollywood standards like Miracle on 34th Street, It's a Wonderful Life, A Charlie Brown Christmas, or any of the rest, or if they don't, it's all right. Here I am wishing you now a very happy holiday season, a very Merry Christmas, one that is filled with joy, commendable thoughts, goodwill, and like the second week of Advent, filled with peace. God bless you all. I wish you well as we head into the Christmas season further and all through it. I wish you joy and peace and love and a closer relationship, a closer walk with God. Talk to you again soon.